Hey guys, what's going on? It's Ben here. I'm back again today doing another video, and the subject of today's video is going to be on the Utah Jazz, specifically Rudy Gobert. If you haven't heard, there's been a lot of rumors going around that Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell are not friends anymore. They really do not enjoy each other, and basically there's rumors that the Jazz are going to be forced into having to trade one of the two guys. And so I already did a Donovan Mitchell trade scenarios video, so if you haven't seen that one, go check it out. But in this video, I'm going to review Rudy Gobert trade scenarios and like potential landing spots for him if the Jazz do end up feeling like they need to trade him. So with that being said, let's get into it. Let's get into some of the scenarios. And just keep in mind too that with some of these scenarios, these are like given the situation would be that like the Jazz are forced to trade him because he like demands a trade. So like for some of them you might say like, well, that's not like a fair return, but you don't always get fair return for a great player or like equal value depending on like the scenario in which the trade was demanded. So for instance, like a lot of people don't think like the Cavaliers got equal value for Kyrie, but also it was because they were like forced to trade him because he said I won't play for you, so they like had to trade him no matter what. Similar thing with a few other guys like Kawhi. Some people don't think the Spurs got equal value for Kawhi, but like they had to trade him basically. So just keep that in mind when I go through these. So the first trade I have on here is Rudy Gobert to the Rudy Gobert to the Miami Heat in exchange for first round pick this year and in 2022, and then also Duncan Robinson and Kelly Olynyk. So why do the Jazz do this trade? Well, they get back Kelly Olynyk, who's a quality center. You could start him if you had to. You also get back Duncan Robinson, who's like 22 years old, very promising, averaging like 14 points a game this year and like shooting 43% from three, which is really great. They also get 2 first-round picks to kind of supplement themselves, but this is definitely one of those scenarios where they definitely aren't really getting equal value, but it would be a scenario where if Rudy just like absolutely demanded a trade, this may be like the best they could get potentially. And also a thing to note in this trade is that the Jazz would get back like $14 million in cap space. So they get cap space, they get a really nice young player, 2 first-round picks, and a guy who they can replace at center with Kelly Olynyk. Next trade I have here, and I'll admit like not all these trades are great, but I'm also thinking about like, as I keep saying, the context of if Gobert demanded a trade, what could they get? And I don't think teams are very willing to give up their great young pieces. Like there's no world in which the Heat are going to give up like Kendrick Nunn, Tyler Hero, and Duncan Robinson for Rudy Gobert. It's just not going to happen. Okay, next trade is between the Pelicans and the Jazz. The Pelicans are getting Rudy Gobert. I think he could really help them in that I think that they don't have a great starting center right now, and yes, the spacing might not be great with him and Zion next to each other, but if you have everyone else on the floor as a above average floor spacer, this team would be okay. As for the Jazz, or let's see here, the Pelicans starting lineup after this trade would be like something like Drew Holiday, Etuan Moore, Brandon Ingram, Zion, and Rudy Gobert. And then I have the Jazz getting Derek Favors, J.J. Redick, Josh Hart, and 2 first-round picks in this year's draft, 1 from the Pelicans and 1 from Cleveland, which would be like a top 5 pick, so that'd be pretty good. And even the Pelicans would be like a lottery pick, so that'd still be pretty good. So the Jazz's depth after this would look probably like Mike Conley at the point, J.J. Redick at the 2. Probably at the 3, you'd have Josh Hart, I actually think. At the 4, you'd have Bogdanovich, and at the 5, you'd have Favors, and then off the bench, you'd have Jordan Clarkson and Joe Ingles, and also remember that you'd have those 2 first-round picks, and one would be probably like top 5, so that'd be pretty good for them going into next year. And I think like this trade, they don't really get like that signature player back per se, but they get like a lot of really good role players to complement the rest of the lineup. And I'm forgetting Donovan Mitchell. The Jazz would have Donovan Mitchell in their starting lineup. So the lineup would really look like Conley, Mitchell, Josh Hart, Bogdanovich, and Favors, with a bench of Ingles, Clarkson, and Redick. And to me, that looks like a really good bench. And so, yeah, I think between the really quality role players they'd be getting and the two really fairly high first-round picks, I think that it would be a decent haul for them. Now I have Rudy Gobert going to the Jazz for Gordon Hayward. I keep saying Rudy Gobert to the Jazz. I have Rudy Gobert to the Celtics in exchange for Gordon Hayward, the Celtics' first-round pick this year, Memphis's first-round pick this year, and Milwaukee's first-round pick this year. So Gordon Hayward and 3 firsts in exchange for Rudy Gobert. Why would the Jazz do this? They get Gordon Hayward back, who's a very good wing scorer, and you could use him as a 6-man, you could use him as a starter. Either way, you're getting a guy back who can score 17 to 18 a night on pretty good efficiency. You also get to bring back Gordon Hayward, who's like your homeboy, back to Utah, where he played the first 7 years of his career. The 3 first-round picks are really nice padding in that you get an opportunity to get a lot of good role players in there for the next couple of years. And then for the Celtics, what their really big hole right now has been that they don't have a quality center, really, to be frank. And they have a plethora of wing talent. So you basically get rid of your excess wing talent in Gordon Hayward, and you bring in what you were lacking in a great center in Rudy Gobert. So why would the Celtics do this? Well, they'd be stripped of their draft capital for this coming year, which, if you didn't know, in this upcoming draft, I believe the Celtics have 4 first-round picks. But they would lose a lot of that. But they would have a great center to plug in. And as I say, Hayward's skills are kind of duplicative of what they already had, so they don't necessarily need him. So you don't lose that much in giving him up. Let's see here. The next trade I have, this is actually the last one now, and I have Rudy Gobert going to the Clippers in exchange for Landry Shamet, Montrezl Harrell in a sign-in trade because he'll be a free agent at the end of this year, and then Ivica Zubac. And so let me break down. First, the Clippers side is pretty easy, I think. So you lose Montrezl Harrell, but I think he's 18-9, which is really good, and he's shoots very efficiently. But I think at the same time, I had the feeling he was going to leave for greener pastures in the offseason anyways to try and get his payday, because I think right now he's only making $3 million. So I think he's going to leave and try and get the payday. So I don't think they're trading him away in this scenario, but it's a sign and trade, and I think they were going to lose him anyway, so it's not too big of a deal. Besides that, they're trading away Zubac, and I think that's, he's a nice young player. I think this year he's averaging 12 and 8, but Gobert's obviously better, so I think it's worth getting rid of him. And then Landry Shamet. This was the part that I think the Clippers would be hesitant about getting rid of, but honestly, he's replaceable enough, but he is a very quality player. To me, he's basically a better Josh Hart, a better shooter, better at catching and shooting, better ball handler. He came out of nowhere last year, but he is a good quality player, so I like him. But ultimately, it's worth it for Rudy Gobert, I think, for the Clippers. Their starting lineup after this, let's say that they were to keep Marcus Morris and sign him to a lesser deal, the Clippers lineup next year would look something like Pat Bev, shooting guard. You'd probably start Paul George, I would think, and then Kawhi at the small forward, Marcus Morris at the power forward, Rudy at starting center, and then your bench is basically Lou Will. I guess you'd also have JaMychal Green and Rodney McGruder. But the thing with the Clippers on this one, they lose a lot of depth, but they get a better starting lineup. So they would basically definitely have the best starting lineup in the league by acquiring Gobert and being able to trot out Pat Bev, PG, Kawhi, Marcus Morris, and Gobert. That's the best starting lineup in basketball, but they basically lose a lot of their bench depth. And their bench is, outside of Lou Will, basically nothing, in my opinion. And then on the other side of this, as for the The Jazz, again, you're kind of getting pennies on the dollar because you're losing Gobert for maybe not 100% even value, but you're getting Montrezl Harrell back, who, like, in playing 25 minutes a night is able to average like 18 and 8. So let's say you give him like 33 minutes a night and you adjust that, that's like him averaging something around more like 25 and 12. So I'm not saying that that's exactly what he would offer, but he could offer that, and that'd be pretty great. Ivica Zubac kind of replaces him as far as the big center that can plug up the middle, because that's really what the Jazz would be missing in this trade if not for him. So you could plug him in to start right away, or Montrez if you want to start Montrez. And then Landry Shamet is just a nice bench piece to really pad out your bench depth. So for the Jazz after this, your starting lineup is going to look like Conley, Mitchell, I believe it would then be Bogdanovich, Ingles, and Zubac, with a bench of Clarkson, Shamet, and Harrell, which would be like one of the best benches in the whole league. So I think this is a pretty decent trade for the Jazz, actually. There you go, guys. Those are my Jazz trade scenarios. If you enjoyed the video, leave a comment. If you hated the video, leave a comment telling me why. Hope you have a good day, and I'll see you next time.